Business is booming in the NFL, and that is great news for the 49ers. According to Tom Pelissero, the 2026 salary cap is expected to land above $300 million for the first time ever. For perspective, in 2022, the salary cap was under $200 million. It has grown over $100 million in 4 years. That is more spending money for teams, and it means that teams like the 49ers, who have built a very robust A-list core and want that A-list core to continue growing, are going to have more financial flexibility to do so. Look at the percentage increase over the cap year over year. This is projected to be an 8 to 9.5% increase in salary cap space from 2025 to 2026. Ever since that COVID year, which saw the first ever decrease in the salary cap, the NFL has seen substantial growth compound. And if you're in any way financially literate, you know that this means that there's a whole lot more spending money on the table, and you can also have confidence as a football team that this increase in spending will continue into the future because salary cap growth is tied to increasing league revenue. We're currently sitting in Scotland right now, and the NFL, I mean, they're moving toward a UK expansion. More and more international games. I'm sure that eventually there'll even be teams on this side of the Atlantic Ocean, maybe an entire division on this side of the Atlantic Ocean, and that's going to open up a whole new TV viewing window on Sundays because of the time zone. And on the East Coast, they'll be able to watch football at 10 a.m. just like they do on the West Coast. And that's going to mean a larger pie. The bigger the pie gets, the bigger the pieces get. And that means that teams like the 49ers, who have worked to get ahead of this, we see their formula. Part of their formula, which I'm listing here on the screen, involves paying a larger group of A-list core players every year because they can surf the wave of the rising salary cap. It's all just going to feed into this positive cycle for teams who could see ahead, think ahead, plan ahead, and spend ahead. That is exactly what the 49ers have been doing, and that's what you can expect them to continue this offseason, especially since they ran a mini financial reset last offseason. They still spent a whole heck of a lot of money. The 49ers still finished number 4 in overall cash spent in 2025. But what we saw was a clearing of the brush. The 49ers said, hey, we have to be getting A-list level return on investment from our A-list contracts. So they made sure to cut the B and C list contracts that weren't performing up to par from the team. They made sure that they were getting bargain bin, rookie contract type of deals on the non-A-list positions. But they kept the foundational pillars in place. Guys like, George Kittle, Fred Warner, Brock Purdy, all received massive new contracts. So the 49ers doubled down on those foundations, and now they're going to be able to double down on more foundations and perhaps add a foundational pillar or two this offseason because of the way they've managed their financial housekeeping. But that salary cap increasing to over $300 million, the range is going to be $301.2 million to $305.7 million. It's all going to, the final number is going to depend on how the NFL finishes this fiscal season. The Super Bowl is obviously coming up, and the proceeds from the Super Bowl, the money made there is going to determine how the salary cap works. But the 49ers within that whole picture are going to be able to be solid spenders this offseason. They've been ahead of this curve, and now they can continue being ahead of this curve with the cap increasing the way they've expected it to increase. They've done the budgeting for this, and they're going to continue surfing the wave of that rising salary cap. Now, speaking of the way that the NFL is going to make some money over here on this side of the Atlantic Ocean, well, we have a discussion over here in Scotland about how the 49ers can modernize their roster.
You guys thought that I couldn't drive. You thought that Casper had to drive me everywhere. Not only can I drive, I can drive on the wrong side. Wheel on the right, we're in Scotland. We're crossing an awesome bridge. There are several awesome bridges right next to each other here as we make the drive from Edinburgh to St. Andrews. And, St. Andrews is where golf was born, the oldest golf course in the world. Got to tell you that the 49ers have the oldest offensive roster in the NFL. Average age of over 29 years old, which is ancient by NFL standards in 2025. So the 49ers have to get younger and faster on the offensive side of the ball. By the way, on the way out of Edinburgh, we passed the rugby stadium, the National Rugby Stadium at Murrayfield. It was really cool. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, at this bridge, give me a little bit of a Eastern Bay Bridge, the Oakland span of the Bay Bridge vibe, right? They might have even used this as an inspiration. You could see here, it's several more pylons or towers or whatever you want to call it. I'm not really sure about bridge architecture, but that looks like the old Bay Bridge over there. But look, you got the new half of the Bay Bridge, and that looks like the original half, like the western half. You know, we were in Portugal earlier this year, and they have a copy of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is like the hybrid of the Bay Bridge and the Golden Gate Bridge. Their dictator built it a few decades ago, and it's like a cheap knockoff of San Francisco. Here, it looks like they're just taking actual San Francisco Bay Area bridges, like the Bay Bridge in specific, and putting them right next to each other. I think it's cool. I'm here for it, and I'm here for the 49ers discussion. So anyway, they got some older players, and obviously some of them are still very effective, like Trent Williams, who's my age, who's going to be 38. So yes, I did just call myself old, but sometimes experience really pays off because you know how to drive. You could drive even on the right side. You know, it only took me about 2 minutes to get recalibrated here, and your brain rewires itself so that everything is mirrored when you're on the right side of the car instead of the left side, and of course on the left side of the road instead of the right side. As you can tell, it's a little bit of a trip. One thing that we did notice is that here in Scotland they use miles and miles per hour. A lot of the rest of Europe, it's kilometers. So here they're more on the American, what do they call it, the imperial measurement instead of the metric measurement. So
they still use meters.
They do still use meter, but not where we're at right now. They're using miles. It says 3.8 miles. Like our 470 yards. Like, they're American here. They're using yards. They're using miles. That they're not using the European metric system. I guess that we're not really on the European mainland. All right, I got to get to the football talk. What are the 49ers going to do to get a little bit younger? Because a lot of the statistics that were not favorable for this team, especially for this offense, I think were very correlated to the fact that they were old, that they were by far the oldest offense in the entire NFL. One of the stats is average separation. That was the worst in the league in 2024, and it was number 24 out of 32 teams in 2025. And it was ugly at the end when guys got hurt against Seattle. Nobody was getting open for San Francisco downfield. Average speed for the 49ers was not great. They ranked number, I think, 24 or 25 out of 32 teams in terms of the miles per hour of ball carriers. Look, you could see here I'm going 44 miles per hour. The speed limit is 40, so technically I'm breaking the law. The 49ers were going like if they were in this car right now, they'd be going like 24. They weren't fast in terms of the MPH, especially toward the end of the season. And then, of course, they had a lot of those injuries, and they had a lot of guys missing time. That, I think, is also very correlated to health. Now, speaking of that, when we passed Murrayfield, which is the National Rugby Stadium, so it seats 67,000 in Edinburgh, I noticed that their practice fields were right next door to it. They reminded me a lot of Levi's. But I was looking for the electrical substation, and I couldn't find one. So I think here in Scotland, they figured it out that you don't build your practice field next to an electrical substation. All kidding aside, everybody's going to start yelling in the comment section. Some people think it's a conspiracy theory. Some people think it's legit. Scientifically, it doesn't look like there's... oh, no, that's a horse box. So it's not a horse trailer, but a horse box, right?
Yeah, they call them horse boxes.
That's
UK.
very European. So
yeah, they're like tricked out vans.
Instead of filming dogs on this trip, you're going to get horse boxes and cars going in the wrong direction.
Sorry, you were saying?
I was talking about the electrical substation.
For the lack
and it's obviously built on really flimsy evidence. The guy just stuck his meter under the fence. He didn't even get an accurate reading of what was on the field. He admitted so in his own writing. But it's turned into a perception issue for the 49ers. Kyle Juszczyk came out and said the other day that he wants all the science done to make sure that everything is optimized for the players. And I just noticed there was no substation by the National Scottish Rugby practice fields, which is worth noting. And it's just funny because the setup did seem a lot like the one at Levi Stadium. Anyway, the 49ers need to be a little bit healthier. I think that generally happens when you get younger. They need to be faster on offense, and they need to separate better. And another thing is the run game, from a power perspective, wasn't what San Francisco needed it to be in 2025. Especially running center to right guard there in the interior, kind of those A-gap runs. They were not effective at all, to the point where that first, third, and fourth and short against Seattle that truly derailed the game after the opening kickoff, and the 49ers couldn't convert. They got stuffed on the third down trying to hand to Christian McCaffrey. If you get to too many spots in a season where it's third and short, like less than a yard, fourth and less than a yard, and you don't trust your own ability to just pick up a yard, that really breaks the basis of an offense. And you saw it in Seattle on 4th and 1. Yeah, I know that the Seahawks got that late timeout call in, and Kyle Shanahan wasn't happy about it, but the 49ers were passing. And, they converted before the play was nullified. When they had to try it again, the 49ers decided they couldn't just run in a standard way. They had to run some kind of option play that was Juszczyk, speaking of him, to Christian McCaffrey, that the Seahawks absolutely blew up. I mean, it was just...
I just missed the sheep.
You're looking for some sheep? That's too bad.
Well, I saw some sheep.
So sheep are going to be the version of dogs on this trip. So the 49ers need to get the dog back in their interior run game, because right now it is too sheepish. And, that was a sheepish play call. They're running some kind of pitch option when they needed less than a yard, when they should have just been running a quarterback sneak. But the numbers, especially when they were running center to right guard, right up the middle this past year and in the past couple seasons, have not been good for the 49ers. You hear a lot of talk about Tyler Linderbaum, the free agent center, pending free agent center. Jake Brendel, speaking of aging players, he's going to be 34 years old in September. And I thought Brendel was much better this year in pass protection than he was in 2024. I think that he no longer had knee tendonitis, which was a big step up in his health. But I don't know if he was getting the power run blocking that the 49ers needed. I know Dominic Pooney was hurt for much of the season, and I think that compromised some of his ability in the power run blocking game. The 49ers need that run efficiency to be the basis of their offense. And that's separate, but it's going to end up working in conjunction with the separation ability in the pass game downfield, because in a Shanahan offense, the run plays off the pass and the pass plays off the run. And the bottom line is that you need to set things up in a decent way for Brock Purdy. He is unquestionably one of the best quarterbacks in the game, but he had no help, like absolutely no help against the Seahawks. And a lot of the problems do circle back to the 49ers' issues on offense with age. It's wild here because people park, like we're supposed to be driving on the left side of the road with the wheel being here on the right, but people take these spots and block like a quarter of the road, so you have to cross over just to get past the parked cars, which are parked like facing the wrong way. It's a total trip. Now here comes a bus. Thankfully, I have experience driving the Amalfi Coast in Italy, so this is a piece of cake. I think it's pretty big. Yeah. This road is like 5 times as wide as the one in Italy. But the trick is that I'm driving on the right side of the road, so you got to think about things a little bit differently.
You're driving on the correct side.
No, I'm driving on the left side of the road, but I'm driving on the right side of the car.
Oh, yes.
My wheel is on the right side of the car. All right, now we've hit some of that moody Scottish countryside. This is what we were looking for. Now I got to be careful. Your depth perception is challenged because I'm not you don't feel how much room you have on the left anymore, right? But you gauge it by the right. And on the right side, of course, you don't want to cross over to the right, across the line, because then you're going to get nailed by this truck, for example. Now this, Margot, oh boy.
Oh, God.
my God, I don't think so. I think we're keeping that in. Oh, that was good. He took a little swerve. That was a little bridge. I decided I chickened out there. That, that sketchiness level, 8 out of 10. Remember, the 10 out of 10 was in Italy, Amalfi Coast.
Ship.
Where, okay, now you're getting distracted again. Now there's a guy right here on the left. Be careful right there.
See him? He's
You remember the Amalfi Coast where the bus came and he was like, guys, just chill. And he missed us by like an inch. That was sketchiness
That
level
was
11 out of 10.
terrifying.
Yeah. That was pretty bad though. So anyway, that's what driving in Scotland is like. I think we should focus on the road now. We'll see you guys soon.